What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sunday Night Fantasy Recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, Jay, John, Luke, and Josh. How are you guys doing this Sunday?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing, Simon?
I'm great. This is a good day of football. I'm still getting used to the Browns being like a competent team that take place in good football games. Like, I know this is year 2 of like good football from the Browns, but it's a bizarre feeling. Like, honestly, I'm just happy to be here.
Don't speak too soon. Don't speak too soon.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild right now.
Yeah.
You know, even if they lose, this
They're
is
confident.
not the Browns I grew up watching. You know what I
Put
mean? Like,
two
this is
consecutive years of good football together.
Right.
They'll have one like once every 25 years or so, but
This is bizarre, but it's been an awesome day of football, guys. The 1 p.m. slate was absolutely unreal. We've got some great games here on the 4 p.m. slate as well. We started this morning off with a banger out in London, and then we've got the epitome of Sunday Night Football tonight when the Bills and the Chiefs face off. It is an awesome day of football from beginning to end, and that new FanDuel music at the beginning had me jamming.
Man,
He was popping.
slapping the bass.
I just saw an update here. It looks like the Chargers just scored a touchdown. So,
I saw it right now.
I see it, Austin Eckler.
I'm seeing it right now. So thanks
Okay,
for
well,
that for me, Josh. I appreciate that.
If someone's going
I'm
to
sorry.
score it, I'm glad it's Austin Eckler because, man, do I love that man. It's always weird cheering for fantasy players and for your own team. What's up, Derek? Welcome in. He said, let's go, fellas. And we got Kevin here as well saying, bird up. Again, this is the Sunday Night Fantasy Recap presented by FanDuel. We are live here every Sunday night at 7 p.m. While you're here, before we get started breaking down the games, we want to remind everyone, if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube for FanDuel. If you're on Twitch, hit the follow button. Go find FanDuel on TikTok, Twitter. They're FanDuel at both, and make sure you are following them everywhere. There are so many great content creators putting out awesome content through FanDuel. You want to make sure you're not missing any of it. And oh my God, did he miss the kick?
Yes,
Chargers
he
missed the
did.
PAT.
Woo!
The
Sorry,
Chargers missed the
To
PAT.
tie.
Oh man.
Oh my.
I
Man,
love
what
it.
was
It's a great day for the band kickers crowd. I got to say, with all
Oh
these
my
mistakes
God.
today, I should have worn my band kickers shirt.
You have
Kev,
one
come-
actually?
I do, yeah.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
What
Jake
was the
Seeley band
over-under
kicker
on
shirt.
this Chargers-Browns game?
I
Is
can
there-
tell you. Give me 1 second because
They're
I've
at
got to pull it
83
up.
points.
They definitely covered the over, but it was 40. It was
Did they
46
double
and
it
a
yet?
half points. The FanDuel
46 and a
Sportsbook had it
half.
46 and a half.
So the Browns have almost covered it by themselves.
By
They've
themselves,
got
yes.
one more touchdown, and they've covered the whole over/under with only their own team. And Tim said this Browns-Chargers game is just electric. Good one, Tim. Get it? The Chargers.
The Chargers, yeah, that's funny.
Fantastic.
FanDuel, and you're saying kickers having a tough day. Yes,
Yes,
indeed,
they are.
But you know what? Crosby made the one that mattered. He made the only one that mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if he would have missed the other ones.
The other ones definitely did matter.
But it worked out. Guys, the first thing we are going to do today is break down or preview the Sunday Night Football game between the Bills and the Chiefs. I know we are all very excited for this game, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this game up on the screen for us to start talking about. The Bills versus the Chiefs. The first thing I want to do real quick, just for fun, before we dive into any analysis, let's go through and pick our winners. JL, who do you think is going to come out on top in this game?
I'm going to go with Chiefs.
Chiefs. Josh?
I'm taking the Chiefs as well. If they're,
Chiefs.
I'm taking the home team. I'm taking the home team here. Close game.
Jay?
Give me the Bills. I think the Bills are going to pull it out. I think they're going to show on Sunday night that they're a force to be reckoned with.
I'm going Bills as well, Jay.
Ooh,
I just
split
like what
'em.
I've been seeing from them.
Did we
So it is
split
2-2.
last time?
I think we did, and I think Simon and I were the ones that were correct. So,
Probably not.
Checks out.
No, we picked Ravens, didn't we? Josh and I picked Ravens.
I
No.
picked the Ravens.
You
So
and I
maybe it
picked
was you.
Ravens. That's who
Yeah.
it was.
So I was correct. So
I was also
wrong.
correct.
So, Jay,
That was
either
awesome.
you're going to lift me up to your level or I'm going to pull you down to mine, but we'll see what happens after this game today. Joey said more like Viz Canto. That's a good one.
That's so
Tim
bad.
said, it's also shocking.
So good.
Indeed, it is. Okay, guys,
man.
this Sunday Night Football game, there's the names that we know you're going to start. We don't need to spend too much time talking about them. Josh Allen, you're starting them. Patrick Mahomes, you're starting them. Tyreek
You sure
Hill,
about
you're
that?
starting them. Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, you're starting them. It's not until we get down here to maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Josh, how do you feel about Clyde Edwards-Helaire going against this Bills defense? Are you comfortable with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this matchup, or is this a if you have better options, maybe play him kind of game?
Yeah, I mean, it was that going into the week. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire's going to have a fine game, but you got to temper your expectations because the Bills defense has been fantastic all year, and they've been good against the run game. But I think he'll have a fine game.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. He's not a high upside play for me this week, but I'm fine with putting him in your lineup if you don't have better options. And you know what? With the current landscape of running back, a fine play is almost a great play at this point.
Yeah.
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably started for you. JL, I wanted to come to you because I know you, since the offseason, since mock draft started, I've been preaching the value of Cole Beasley and just the volume of targets that he gets. So not just Cole Beasley, though, but these secondary receivers for the Bills, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis. Are there any of these guys that you are okay with starting tonight, or even take it a step further that you're excited about starting tonight, you think could be a value maybe in a single slate lineup on FanDuel?
Yeah, I mean, outside of Stephon Diggs, obviously, I'm excited to start Emmanuel Sanders. He continues to get targeted on the deep ball, and I'm fine starting Cole Beasley. The 2 games he hasn't done well, hasn't gotten many receptions this year, have come in blowouts, and I don't anticipate this is going to be a blowout. There's a chance that they target the other wide receiver options there more than Beasley, but I would rather just take the shot on Beasley's, especially any sort of like PPR format or DFS, format where it's PPR.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. Mike's in here wanting to know if we think both QBs will be in the optimal lineup for tonight's single game slate. Do you think both quarterbacks are going to have to be in there for the optimal lineup?
Yes.
You'll be spending up for those, then you'll have to price down at some of the other positions. Josh, you say yes. You think this is the kind of game where both quarterbacks are going to have to be in there?
I think so. I think they're going to both. It's going to be, in my mind, this is going to be a shootout. So if that's the case, both of these quarterbacks are going to be the top 2 scorers.
Yeah,
100%. That's what I was going to say, Josh. If you think this game is going to be a shootout, which I agree with you, then I think you need both quarterbacks in that lineup. If you think this could be a sneaky defensive game, if you're of the opinion that the Bills can maybe control the Chiefs' offense a little bit, then maybe not. But I believe both quarterbacks. Jay or JL, any different opinions on that?
No, I mean the Buffalo defense has been very good, but I think Mahomes is somewhat matchup proof at this point.
Yeah.
I think if it's going to be a shootout, or if the Bills get up and they start scoring, I think Mahomes is going to answer regardless how good the defense is. Also, FanDuel said polls up for voting, so you can pick who you think is going to win tonight.
Are you on Team Jay and Simon with the Bills or Josh and JL with the Chiefs?
Team Maryland.
Team Maryland and team spread across the country.
Yeah. Team lower than Maryland.
Or are
in metaphorical ways as well. Got him.
Whoa.
So I will tell you guys real fast that the Chiefs are 3-point favorites coming into this game. Depends what sportbook you're looking at FanDuel, 3 points. And it's a 56.5 point over under. So they do expect a lot of scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's basically a pick 'em, the home team getting the 3-point advantage in the lines. Like it's about as close as you can get here. So I'm excited for this game. I hope it's not disappointing. Kev said high scoring. He thinks it's going to be high scoring. And we got Katie in here saying Josh and JL, she hates me. JL, come on.
Let's go.
Does your mom hate me? What did I do? What'd you tell her?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. She knows
JL
you.
telling my secret,
She knows all
making
your
her hate
secrets.
me.
Also,
Okay.
Chargers had the ball back, by the way, Simon.
Mm-hmm.
Kev came in to tell us.
Sweet.
Just to let you know.
Cool.
Come on, Chargers.
Cool.
Come on, Chargers.
Cool. Come on, Josh. Be nice to me over here. Guys, there are a couple more players I want to talk about here. 2 more situations, really. Jay, I'm going to come to you for the first one. This Buffalo running back situation has been difficult to decipher all season, whether you're playing season long or trying to pick one as a value in your DFS lineups on FanDuel. Is there a running back that you prefer to start between Devin Singletary and Zach Moss in tonight's game?
No. It's just it's take your pick. It's basically a gamble. They're both getting similar work. It's basically who's going to either break off a long run or score a touchdown. I mean, Josh Allen is the running back 1 on this team, and it's whoever wants up getting some goal line touches.
Josh, what do you think? Do you have a preference on these running backs?
It's Moss for me, just because you brought up goal line touches, and I think Moss is the guy at the goal line more often than not. Devin Singletary probably has a little bit more pass catching upside, so I understand it's kind of up in the air who could be the highest scorer, but I'm going Moss myself.
And I like Devin Singletary's ability to break off a long play too,
Yes.
just a little bit better than Moss. So
Yeah.
it's they both got their advantages. It's flip a coin.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys there. It's a difficult situation to parse, but Josh, I like the point that you said. It does seem like there's been more red zone goal line touches for Zach Moss. So there might be slightly more upside there. But again, Devin Singletary's got the ability to rip off a long one or just go in for a single touchdown, and it changes the entire. Are you laughing at rip off a long one?
Yeah.
I kind of like single touchdown while talking about Singletary.
Single touchdown.
Single touchdown, Terry.
And I might rip off a long one tonight. I just had pizza for dinner. Albert in here saying Bills 35-31. So he's on our team, Jay. And JL's mom saying, love you, Simon. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'm the only one that's JL's mom just doesn't like. So
I realized what was going on. She was saying she was on Josh and JL's team
for the
picking
Chiefs.
the Chiefs.
Yes.
I took it personally because I'm sensitive. And that's what happened there.
I love you, Simon.
You and Dan Campbell.
And Derek coming in saying for a single slate lineup for the if you're going into a big GPP tournament, he's taking both Buffalo running backs tonight as the differentiator. You know what? And I don't hate that strategy. If this is a high scoring game, both of them could find the end zone. That could happen. Derek, I like that. I'm curious to see how those rosters work out for you. Hopefully come back and let us know because you will differentiate yourself with that right there. And Jay, we got the update. Love you, Jay.
Thank you.
What's up, JL?
No, I was just going to say, never mind. It was about the running backs, but it doesn't add much. Go ahead.
The last player I think we need to talk about on this team, we talked about the secondary receivers and the running backs for the Bills. Sorry, two more options. There's one that I almost forgot that we have to talk about. But first, we are going to discuss Dawson Knox, who has been playing quite well recently. Josh, we'll come to you first on this one. How do you feel about Dawson Knox? Are you excited or are you just okay with starting him? Is he someone that you think will be in a winning lineup for tonight's showdown?
I'm not excited to start him. I think he has the touchdowns upsides there, but all these receivers are capable of scoring touchdowns. Yeah, Dawson Knox is a little bit of a taller guy, but he's not necessarily that big body tight end. He's a little bit more athletic, I would say. He's a threat for a touchdown every game, but I don't know if I'm throwing him in my FanDuel lineups.
There we go. JL, what about you?
Yeah, I'm fine throwing Dawson Knox in there. He has a 13.2% target share in this offense. And in the last 3 games, it's gone up 2%. So I think that they'll still most likely target him. And if it is a high scoring game, then there should be a lot of targets to go around.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. Guys, one more thing before we move on to the last game. There's one player we need to talk about. He's hiding. He's not even on there right now. Do we know, is Josh Gordon playing tonight for the Chiefs? Do we know if he's playing? Is he taking the field?
I think he is.
Okay. Then
I'm almost positive.
We need to discuss Josh Gordon a little bit. Is anyone plugging Josh Gordon in?
Yeah, it could be worth a shot. I would have to see the cost. I know Joey was looking into it earlier when we were on our call earlier, and Joey was saying he would like to throw him in there. So is the upside there? Sure. I'm trying to avoid it because he could just as easily have a 0-point game.
Yeah, not against his defense.
I think a 0-point game is more likely.
Josh Gordon is active and will make his season debut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a 0 is more likely than a blow-up game, so I'm avoiding it as well, Josh. But there's always that possibility in the Chiefs offense. But we haven't seen Josh Gordon play competitively in a little while, so I'm curious. I'm more watching him tonight to see for future weeks than I am trying to plug him in anywhere. Guys, we are going to move on to our first game of today, the game that happened this morning across the pond in London, the Atlanta Falcons versus the New York Jets. And JL, you know what I want to talk about first. The points leader for Atlanta, the day we've all been waiting for, the Kyle Pitts breakout game. Is he here to stay or was this just a fluke?
I think he's here to stay. I mean, certainly he got, I think, more targeted than he maybe normally did with Calvin Ridley being out. But this is finally how we wanted Kyle Pitts to be used. And so the fact that it went well, hopefully the coaching staff there looks at that and realizes, okay, let's start using him for where we freaking drafted him.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
No.
Not good for the Cleveland Browns.
Simon, we're doing a show. Not sure if you realize that.
I didn't interrupt you. Touchdown for the Chargers. Live updates on the game.
Real fast on Kyle Pitts. He's gotten 8 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. Tight ends don't typically see this kind of target share, especially rookie tight ends, and he's getting it. He's a talented tight end. He's here to stay.
Yep. This was what was coming based on his target share, Josh. I completely agree with you there. Unless something else changes where the target share drops, I expect more games like this in the near future. Outside of Kyle Pitts, we had another great game from Patterson on the Atlanta Falcons. Jay, And Mike Davis had a great game. This running game for Atlanta, I say great game. A startable game.
He had a Mike Davis game. That's basically what Mike Davis has done all year.
Yeah. He had a Mike Davis game. This Atlanta running game, how comfortable are you with after 5 weeks? I know we've talked about Cordero Patterson week after week after week after week, and we keep saying it's going to come down. It's not going to. It won't continue at the same rate, but he keeps on coming out with these pretty good fantasy performances. At this point, is he someone in season long? Maybe you're starting every single week.
I'm never going to be comfortable starting Cordero Patterson. It's just not going to happen all season long. That being said, I don't think he's a sell high because you're not going to get the value that he's giving you right now. I think it's a situation you should just ride it out and enjoy the free lottery ticket. You know, you scratched off $1 lottery ticket and you got $100. Like, just take the points. You know, he's been absolutely phenomenal for you. He's, you know, a guy that you probably only have to start in a flex, and you're getting high-end RB2 production. Maybe they do keep using him. Mike Davis, I was not very high on all off season. He's okay. Like, if you need 10 points, you're good. Mm-hmm. That's about it. I mean, he's getting a touchdown. The one thing I do like about Mike Davis is he is getting a lot of targets, but with Patterson being involved so much, his upside is really limited.
Yeah, completely agree. And Michael in here saying he is a Falcons fan. Well, congrats on the win today, my man. And I bet you were excited to finally see Pitts involved a little bit in that game. That was a fun game this morning. The only other thing I think we need to talk about on the Atlanta side is Hayden Hurst's involvement. 4 receptions. It wasn't anything spectacular, but he did have the touchdown. 4 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. JL, is this a product of Calvin Ridley being out, his slight increase in involvement? Is Hayden Hurst someone you're ever comfortable plugging in as a bye-week tight end, or are there just better options out there? Or a value tight end in like a GPP?
If I would want to see it with Calvin Ridley back in, I think that, of course, like he's going to be in that bottom tier of tight ends where you can plug them in. They're going to have games like this. 4 receptions on 5 targets is promising, but I would like to see that like a sustained trend versus just one game before I start trusting him in my lineups.
I agree. Tim saying you guys don't have to talk about the Dolphins game if you don't want. Just skip it or whatever. Okay, Tim.
Well,
yeah,
didn't the Dolphins just skip the game? Is that what happened? I
think. Guys, as you can see from the Jets fantasy scores right here, it was not the best fantasy outing for the Jets, but we did see some signs of life from rookie Michael Carter out there, who showed up, had himself a touchdown, should have had 2. Ty Johnson stole the other one from him, but seeing him get in the end zone, 10 carries, 38 yards, 3 receptions for 20 yards. It's not a super high volume stat line over there. Josh, I see you shaking your head. I was going to come to you on this one. Are you comfortable starting Michael Carter at this point? Or are you still worried about the volume and the splits that it looks like are going on in this Jets offense?
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the volume that Michael Carter received this week. I know they were down pretty early in this game, and that probably affected it a little bit, but he is getting the most carries in this backfield, but it's a 3-headed monster, I don't want to call it a monster. It's a 3-headed something. But I'm losing faith in like any of these options going forward, to be honest with you. So, you know, unless there's an injury to someone, I'm not starting any Jets running backs.
JL, if you're plugging one of these running backs into a FanDuel lineup, which one of these running backs is it? Is it Michael Carter? Is it Ty Johnson? And maybe a lower price.
It has to be Michael Carter at this point. Ty Johnson is interesting. He's got like slightly more targets on the season, but not by much. I'm sorry, that was just the last 3 games. Michael Carter has more targets out of any running back on this team. So I would rather have Michael Carter.
Yeah, I think if I have to pick one, it's Michael Carter. Josh, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I want Michael Carter on my fantasy teams, you know, on the bench, and just waiting for that one blow up game, because it could happen any week where they give him 20 carries, he has over 100 yards, a touchdown kind of game. Then I'm ready to plug him in there, but I'm willing to miss that game and ride him on my bench for the time being.
Yep, completely agree with you guys. Anything else on the Jets side you guys want to talk about? The wide receivers were rather disappointing. Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims. Every single one of them was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think there's too much else to talk about on the Jets side here. If you started any of these guys outside of Michael Carter and Ty Johnson, you were probably pretty disappointed throwing them in there.
Yeah.
There we go. We're going to move on to our next game. Up next, we have the most confusing team in the NFL going up against the Washington football team, the New Orleans Saints. faced off against the Washington football team and came out with the W 33-22. Jameis Winston looking like classic Jameis Winston out there with the long bomb touchdowns and the interceptions. Jay, does this game, you've been not a detractor, but a realist about what Jameis Winston has done so far this season. Even in the 5-touchdown game, it really wasn't that impressive of a game from like a football perspective. Does this game give you more confidence for Jameis Winston going forward?
It does. The way he started this game was like, oh, here we go. This is the Jameis that we all know and love. But then, he's getting a deep ball going, and he's starting to develop some chemistry. He's with Deontay Harris, with Marquez Callaway, Dynasty wide receiver 1.
There you go. There it is.
I had to throw that out there. Michael Thomas is supposedly coming back sometime. We don't know exactly when, but before the end of the season.
One day.
And he gets some more weapon. Yeah, one day. Maybe it's next year. Who knows? But it's starting to get – I like that they got Alvin Kamara involved more in the passing game than they have so far this season. That is what makes this New Orleans offense tick. So I have to say it's for me, it's arrow up for Jameis Winston. And where before this he was unstartable for me, in the right matchup, I would start him as a QB2 in Superflex or, as a cheap play in a tournament.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, Jay. This game did a lot for me in regards to how I view Jameis Winston right now. I just needed to see something like this. I needed to see him have the passing volume, throw up at least close to 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. But Josh, do you disagree on the Jameis Winston take? Let's hear it.
15 completions, guys. It reminds me of week 1, kind of, to be honest with you. It's pretty efficient, but we know one of those was just a Hail Mary, and he got a little lucky.
Very lucky.
I think he's Jameis Winston. He's going to have big blow-up games, which is great for, a FanDuel quarterback, like you said. But otherwise, he makes me nervous.
Okay. And guys, I don't think too much needs to be said outside for Alvin Kamara outside of what Jay said. It was really nice to see him more involved in the passing game this week. And if that's what they're going to keep doing going forward, then Alvin Kamara's got great days ahead. JL, I wanted to come to you. I know Michael Thomas is coming back soon. I asked Jay if this game helped change his perception of Jameis Winston in fantasy. I'm asking you the same question about our boy, the preseason hype beast, Marquez Callaway.
Our boy. I don't know about all that.
I was saying as a collective industry, they all lost their minds for Marquez Callaway in the preseason. Everyone his ADP shot up unlike anything I've seen in recent history.
I saw him go in the 5th round in one.
Oh my gosh. See, he went from undrafted to 5th round. That is absolutely insane. Is this an arrow up for Marquez Callaway for you or neutral? Just a great game.
This is just a game, I think, for Marquez Callaway. I'm not putting a ton of stock into it until I see it sustained, right? Just like Josh said, Jameis Winston was hyper efficient, which he won't be able to sustain. Marquez Callaway has had not really the greatest target share, even in this offense with no real other options. I mean, this is the most targets he's seen all season by almost half. He had 5. His next closest one was 5 in week 3. So I'm not super excited about it. And then even add on the aspect that Michael Thomas is coming back. I'm not even trusting Marquez Callaway in a single lineup. I'm not picking him up. I'm not doing anything with him.
Yeah, I agree with you there, JL. It is a wait and see for me, but what I did like seeing was that this is possible, that he can do it, that connection with Jameis is there. It was nice to just see it on the field, and you can take that home run shot with Marquez Callaway until Michael Thomas comes back, in my mind, whether it's in a FanDuel lineup or in your flex spot. He's got that upside. Okay, we are moving on to the Washington football team. Antonio Gibson, I know we had big worries about him. So in my mind, that was my favorite thing about this team seen in this game. He wasn't hyper efficient, but he looked okay on the field out there. I was super nervous about that shin stress fracture, but Antonio Gibson gave me the confidence to keep starting him this week or in weeks going forward. Whereas this week I was a little bit nervous to even plug him into my lineup after that news came out. Anything else you guys think is worth talking about on this Washington football team side? Anything else that stands out to you?
Terry McLaurin will have much better days ahead. 11 targets, 4 receptions, 46 yards. You're going to look at the fantasy points and not be very impressed, but he's a plug and play every week.
Yep.
100%. Appreciate you saying that, Josh. You should not lose confidence in Terry McLaurin after one bad game like this. Guys, this was one of the weirdest football games I've watched recently. The Green Bay Packers versus Cincinnati Bengals. It's totally weird. Before we get into that, we have a couple questions in the chat. Derek wants to know, Jay, this one is directly for you. How can Jacksonville's start Shenault and Marvin Jones, and both of them get 1 reception each. What's going on in Jacksonville with those receivers, Jay?
I don't know, but Urban Meyer really seems to grind my gears. Sorry about that. So you saw it, the one catch that Laviska Shenault had, he broke like 3 or 4 tackles, went for 58 yards. It was beautiful. You saw why people like me and Josh are so obsessed with the upside potential of Laviska Shenault. I don't get it. It's the same reason that Carlos Hyde was in there for the last goal line carry to win the game. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. It was Tavon Austin Day, apparently, like we talked about earlier. You saw last week what Laviska Shenault did. Like, I don't get it.
It's a poorly coached team.
Yeah.
It's baffling that they don't use him more. I'm just absolutely shocked. Adrian in here saying Saquon Barkley won't be getting picked by me no more after that injury today.
Very unfortunate.
It's so unfortunate. That was so sad to see. I hate that for him. He just wants to get out there and ball like the baller that he is, but he can't. He just keeps getting injured. So hopefully this isn't anything long term.
It was a freak thing. We'll get to that, but it was a freak injury. It wasn't, people were saying, oh, he's going to be injury prone. Like, it was a freak injury, but
it was gross.
Also, update, Chargers did win. Great game, Chargers, Justin Herbert. I am a little disappointed, but again, I'm just happy to be here, to be in the conversation.
Just happy to be here.
I'm just here, and you can even find me. I'm okay with that because I'm pretty happy about these games. Guys, the first thing we need to talk about is the kicking situation in this game. Just kidding. We don't have to spend much time on that.
It was
what the hell
the best part of the game.
They just kept on missing. Mason Crosby couldn't get it through the uprights, and then McPherson was missing as well. And that just added to the weirdness of this game.
Devonta started with 3 missed PATs.
Absolutely insane.
So weird.
Devonta Adams did what Devonta Adams does with 11 receptions, 206 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. We don't need to talk about him. He's a guy you can spend up on in the right matchup on FanDuel. You plug him into every single lineup you have if you have him. But the secondary receiving options here did not do very much. Randall Cobb, the next highest scoring wide receiver. JL, if you had to pick a secondary receiving option here in Green Bay to start to throw in a FanDuel lineup as a high upside play, which one of these guys are you starting? Is it Randall Cobb, Allen Lazard, our boy Amari Rodgers?
That's my answer. It's Aaron
That's
Jones.
not an option.
It is an option. He has the second most on the season. Devonta Adams has 38.1% of the target share every day.
Gosh.
38.1%. The next closest player is Aaron Jones at 11.9%.
Aaron Rodgers had 344 yards passing, and Devonta Adams had 206 of the receiving yards.
It's absurd. It is absurd. Devonta Adams is the receiving part of this offense.
The only thing you're doing with any of the other wide receivers on this team is throwing a Hail Mary for a touchdown. You're throwing the Hail Mary, and then you're hoping Aaron Rodgers does the same thing because Devonta Adams is the passing offense, him and Aaron Jones. Outside of those two guys, I think the other thing we need to talk about here is the split between A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Josh, I know you were looking at that a little bit during the game. Joey, we were talking to him earlier, Joey Wright. He was a bit concerned about the usage here, wanted to dig more into it. Are you concerned for Aaron Jones going forward based on the usage today?
No, as long as he's getting at least 15 carries. I mean, he got 5 targets, 4 receptions today. As long as he's getting over 15 touches a game, he's such an explosive athlete and a really good running back in this great offense. So I'm fine even with this split that we're seeing.
JL, any dissenting opinions on the A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones splits? Are either of you more worried than Josh is?
No,
I mean, I think he's getting involved, which is kind of what you want to see. I mean, it isn't great, I guess, for Aaron. It does cap Aaron Jones' upside, but it's great for A.J. Dillon, and hopefully it will help both of them, right? You can get A.J. Dillon more involved. It's going to, open the offense up for Aaron Jones.
Well, like you said too, JL, Aaron Jones is not only the running back one, but he's the wide receiver too on this team. Aaron Rodgers loves to throw him the ball, so I think he's going to be perfectly fine. It's with the extra game this season, I think you're going to see backups get more and more involved as the season rolls along. So I think Aaron Jones is going to be perfectly fine.
I completely agree with you guys. He's a stud, and Green Bay is going to continue using him. And Aaron Rodgers, like you said, out of all the teams in the NFL, the one where the quarterback's preference of receiving options matters the most is probably the Packers. Aaron Rodgers throws to who he likes, and he likes Aaron Jones and Devonta Adams, so it helps out there. Guys, before we move,
I got
go
a question
ahead.
for you guys.
Let's do it.
Should we be dropping Robert Tanyan if you haven't already? Like, can we just bury all hope on Robert Tanyan this year?
I think there's probably better options on the waiver wire. Yep. I mean, if you can pick up a Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz is probably already picked up. I would hope so, but if he's not, that's a better option. But I think you're fine. Tight end is it's a bit of like a hellscape after the top 5 guys. So
one reception for 8 yards on 2 targets this game. I don't think he's done much better in the season, except for against Detroit in week 2, where he got a touchdown. But he had 3 targets that game.
Yeah, I want no piece of him. He's basically a low-end Hail Mary play. You're hoping for a touchdown. I think there's a lot better options out there, like you said, on the waiver wire. I want no part of Tanyan.
Josh, you were making some faces like you might have a slightly different opinion. What do you think about Robert Tanyan?
Slightly. I think he's just as good as a lot of these back-end tight ends, in this – yeah, he's kind of a dart throw, but he's on the field a lot, and it's Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. The touchdowns will come throughout the year, I think.
I get that.
Threw that I think in there at the end.
Please.
I think he'll be a top 15 tight end by the end of the year.
I was about to say top. That is a hot take, Josh. Top 15. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I'll buy that line. That's a good line.
29. Right.
Clip that, FanDuel. Put that out there. Say Josh is Tanyan's top 5 tight end for the year.
Top 5 tight end.
Not top 5.
Guys, before we move on to the Cincinnati side of this game, Charlie had a question for us. Trade value of Will Fuller. So I'm guessing redraft. Do you think he can become a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 on that offense?
Say trade value is probably a half-eaten ham sandwich, maybe. If
that's about right. If you could get a ham sandwich, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, full one. Yeah, I think he can be, but he's somebody you're gonna, if you have some room, throw on the end of your bench. Like, you're not excited to start him. He's a stash to see if something develops, but I'm not excited about. There we go. I think we're going to clip Josh's Tanyan take over there.
FanDuel's got
it. But yeah, I think he's a fine stash, but I wouldn't give up anything for him.
No, not at all. And what's the wide receiver 2 in the Dolphins going to do really in fantasy?
I agree with you, Josh. That was the point I was going to make. I don't think he can get to wide receiver 2 range being the wide receiver 2 on the Dolphins. He would have to be the wide receiver 1 on that team, and I don't think that's happening with Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker right now, and Jacoby Brissett in. I don't know what you're going to be able to trade him for.
High volume enough passing offense to support, that many weapons. And Tua's when he comes back, he's gonna spread it around. They saw they got Gaskin involved today. Gesicki's still there, like you said, Simon. You got Waddle, you've got Devontae Parker. So he's going to be a flex play that you're hoping for a long touchdown.
Yep. We got Jay Wall in here. Said some of these games have been insane. What's up, y'all? His favorites. We love you too, Jay Wall. Thanks for joining in and watching us today. And Joey coming in with a little more info on Tanyan, saying Tanyan's rest of season schedule is rough. His remaining matchups give up, on average, the 5th least amount of fantasy points to the tight ends per game.
Really good information.
So it is getting tougher for Robert Tanyan going forward, and we haven't seen good stuff so far, so keep that in mind. Guys, we are going to go ahead and move on to the Cincinnati side of this ball. And Josh, the first thing you said today whenever you got onto our call where we were watching games together was, did you see that Chase catch? We don't have to talk about him too long. He's great, but just talk to us a little bit about what you saw from Chase today and what you think it means for him going forward.
I mean, so far throughout the season, he hasn't necessarily been a high target guy. He got 11 targets today, which is beautiful to see. 6 catches, 159 yards, and a touchdown. This is awesome. I mean, we knew he was going to be this deep threat, but if he's going to be hyper targeted as well, he's just going to be a fantasy stud the rest of the season. And I think he will be.
Yeah. Anyone else hate that take? Any Jamar Chase haters here?
No Jamar Chase haters
not at
here.
all.
We all love that man. Josh, I'm actually, or we'll go to Jay for this one because you like Joe Mixon a bit too. Was this split between Samaj P. Ryan and Joe Mixon just due to the Joe Mixon injury, to him being banged up, or are you worried about this becoming more of a committee going forward?
No, I think it's definitely just because of the injury that, he got the touchdown. I think it was encouraging to see him out there, being banged up, not practicing this week. No concerns for Joe Mixon. Somebody is, like you said, Josh and I are both on the Joe Mixon bandwagon. I think this Cincinnati offense by the end of the year is going to be firing on all cylinders. I want any piece of this offense I can get.
And Jail, on that note, there's another piece of this offense that I know you're a big fan of. You love the talent. You've been hyping him up quite a bit. T. Higgins had a bit of a disappointing game today. Are you worried at all with all the receiving options in this offense that he's going to get forgotten, or is this just part of the T. Higgins cycle? Are we going to see boom games and lower scoring games?
I think he's still fighting that shoulder injury that's been bothering him, would be my guess. Jamar Chase, as I said before, he had 10 targets today. T. Higgins had 7. It was a high passing game. I'm not that worried about T. Higgins. He's going to be a big part of this offense, and I think a lot of that injury just hampered him a little bit this week.
Yep. And then Josh, one more Bengals player we need to talk about, Tyler Boyd. Is he the man left out, or are you with Jay where you just kind of want pieces of this offense?
No, I've been saying this all year. It's like if either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase are out, Tyler Boyd's a great play. If they're both playing, I'd rather avoid Tyler Boyd. I know he's a great slot receiver. He's going to have his, but he's the third option. He's the third option.
Yep, I agree with you. I think with both other receivers in, the only times you're starting Tyler Boyd is if you can recognize and identify a team that is very weak against slot receivers specifically. Like if you are going up against a team that has a weakness against the slot receiver, you can throw Tyler Boyd in. Otherwise, the other two receivers are going to be a safer bet for you. Anything else about this weird game before we move on, guys? Any final thoughts on the Packers-Bengals game?
Nope.
Detroit, Minnesota, the Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. We got a heartfelt post-game press conference from Dan Campbell after this tough loss for his team. Shed a couple tears for his boys, his hardworking boys out there on the field that didn't come away with the W, but it was a fun game to watch. Another one of these awesome 1 p.m. games that came down to the wire. Excuse me. Josh, on the Detroit side of this ball, Deandre Swift and our kicker there were really the two highest scoring players. There wasn't much going on outside of that besides St. Brown. How do you are you comfortable? Or sorry, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
For this running back situation here, we know Williams has been involved quite a bit throughout the season as well. Does that worry you for Deandre Swift, or was today, or what you've seen so far this season? Is he rank him top 10 guy, top 5 guy rest of season?
Deandre Swift?
Yeah.
He's a top 10 guy going forward. I'm not putting him in the top 5, but he's a back end top 10 running back for me the rest of the season. And it's because of his pass catching upside. Jared Goff loves to check it down. We're seeing just ample targets every week for Deandre Swift. And, Jamal Williams got more rushing attempts, but Deandre Swift is getting enough. If he's going to continue getting these targets, these catches, he's going to be another fantasy stud week in and week out.
The other big storyline on this Detroit side of the ball, TJ Hawkinson had a disappointing game. You would think that he would have been targeted or a bit more involved in this offensive game plan. JL, was this due to his injury? I know he was questionable. Was this an injury concern, or was this just a bad passing game for TJ Hawkinson? Can he be game scripted out?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, we don't know at this point. Hawkinson has the number of his targets that he's seen after the first 2 weeks has just gone down. He had, week 3 through 5, he had 2 targets and 8 targets and 3 targets. I think that they're mixing up their game plans, and probably the injury has something to do with that. But I hope that they start targeting him more going forward, and we get this sort of Hawkinson that we wanted to see at the beginning of the season that we were all expecting.
If this man does it again, where he comes out early, blows up, gets everyone excited, and then just the rest of the season, I'm going to be so upset because I really love TJ Hawkinson. And then Jay, are you starting or plugging into your FanDuel lineups any of the wide receivers on this Detroit team?
Honestly, no, not a single one of them. That Jamal Williams and Deandre Swift are the wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s on this team. I want no part of them, not even as a punt play, honestly.
Yeah, before we move on to the Minnesota side, we got a couple comments. Tim, Burrow is going to get injured again, he said. He got absolutely sauteed on that run. I'm surprised I didn't see his lower half run into the locker room without his torso. It was one hell of a hit. I was impressed when he came back out on the field. That looked like it hurt. I was afraid of a concussion, but
yeah, it did not look good.
Fingers crossed that dude can stay healthy.
Slide. Joe Burrow slide.
Please, Joe Burrow. And then Michael has a question. He wants to know, do we think the Raiders will go to the playoffs? Do you think the Raiders will make the playoffs this year?
It's a no for me.
Probably not, no. I quickly looked it up. 538 has his chances of going to the playoffs 30%.
Yeah,
which isn't great.
They've looked really bad the last couple of weeks. I know they came out hot to start the season, but I don't know. I don't like what I've been seeing lately, and I just don't see. I don't see it happening. They're in a really tough division.
Yeah, there's too many good teams in the AFC. I don't see it happening either.
Yeah, I hate that the answer is no. They can, it's still possible. It's within the range of outcomes for this team.
It wouldn't be shocking if they did by any means.
No, if I had to bet money, if you said $1 million right now, do they make it or not? I'm saying no. I'm saying the Raiders do not make the playoffs.
Wait, you have $1 million to bet?
No.
I was going to say
I got 3. And no, you cannot borrow one. Maria said, bet y'all thought I wasn't here. Surprise, I'm ready to recap. Let's do it. Okay, guys, on the Minnesota side of this ball, I don't know if you saw the intensity with which Kirk Cousins was shaking Zimmer after they won the game. He grabbed that man, screamed in his face, and shook him, and he moved up 3 spots in my rankings because of that intensity. That was unreal. That was so fun to watch. But Alexander Madison had himself a game with Dalvin Cook out. I know in the past we've seen this before where Dalvin Cook goes out, everyone plugs Madison in, and he doesn't show up, but he showed up today. Josh, if Dalvin Cook is out again next week, is Madison a guy you can plug in and expect something similar? 25 carries and 7 receptions.
No doubt in my mind. You could have done that this week. I mean, after seeing week 3 where Dalvin Cook also didn't play, Madison had 26 carries, 112 yards. It's pretty much he had the same exact game when Dalvin Cook was out last time. So absolutely, he's a must start in my mind if Dalvin Cook's not playing.
Yep, I agree with you there. And then the receivers here, JL, Justin Jefferson.
Wait, Josh, you're saying 26. That was week 3, right? Against Seattle?
Yeah. I think I said week 3.
Okay. Because I guess Dalvin Cook did play a little bit last week. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, before we go on, Charlie said my phone died and I totally missed your answer to my question. To recap, Jay said half a ham sandwich. But in all reality, unfortunately, right now with Will Fuller being injured and what he was doing before that, his trade value is almost 0. You're going to have a hard time finding someone to trade you anything for Will Fuller. And I believe the consensus was that if he's the wide receiver 2 on the Dolphins, it's going to be tough to find wide receiver 2 value in fantasy. He's
not a bad bench stash, but that's about it.
Yeah. He's a guy you throw on your bench and see what happens. But I wouldn't be, you're not going to get anything trying to trade him. Kev Burden up again, just in here with all the bird ups. Justin Jefferson, JL. I know earlier in this season, I wasn't poo-pooing on him, but saying a little bit disappointing, and you were singing the praises of his consistency so far. Is this just more of the same? Is this kind of game what we're expecting from Justin Jefferson going forward? Almost 16 fantasy points without a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. He is the target share leader on this team, 24.5% on the season. I think he is the wide receiver 1 on this team.
And a disappointing game from Adam Thielen. But Jay, are you comfortable with Adam Thielen going forward? Is he a kind of guy you would want to be throwing into some FanDuel lineups as the cheaper receiving option?
Yeah,
I think touchdown Thielen.
I think he's solid, but you said it right there. It's Adam touchdown Thielen. It's touchdown or bust for him. Although he has had a decent amount of targets this year, he hasn't scored over double-digit fantasy points in a game that he hasn't scored a touchdown. He doesn't have a single 100-yard receiving game. So for me, he lacks the upside of the Justin Jefferson, when the running game is going to be so involved. I don't see Madison just going back to the bench and not being involved as good as he looked when Cook comes back. So you're going to have Cook, you're going to have Madison, you're going to have Justin Jefferson. It's going to be touchdown or bust for, a big game for Thielen. Well, I think he's a rock solid wide receiver too, but I just think that his upside is capped.
A little bit of trivia here for all 3 of you guys and those in the audience.
Yeah.
Who has more receiving touchdowns on the season, Thielen or Jefferson?
Probably
Jefferson.
They're tied.
I'm not Simon.
Okay, I'm just going for it. It's a trick question.
I'm still going Thielen.
Simon?
I guess I'll go.
I'll go Jefferson.
And Josh?
Jefferson.
It is Thielen. He has 4 compared to Jefferson's 3. Jefferson had 1 week with 2. Or I'm sorry, Thielen had 1 week with 2. Jefferson has had 3 weeks with 1.
I think it was week 1, right?
Yeah.
For Thielen.
Yep.
Yeah, he went off week 1.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to trick me there.
Double trick.
The double trick. Yeah, I thought you were going for the double trick right there. Guys, anything else on this Minnesota game before we move on to our next one? Then up next, we have the Denver Broncos versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers won at 27-19, and it wasn't as close as that score says. That score makes it look like it might have been a close game, but it was not.
The Broncos came down at the end of the game, and Teddy Bridgewater threw an interception, right?
Yeah. Sorry, most of the game it was not that close.
It wasn't.
I remember you saying at the end of the game, "Wait, are the Broncos trying to make this a good game too? Are they trying to match the other games?" But they just couldn't quite do it.
Yeah,
and Adrian, I'm so sorry, man. He came in third place of a 4-man sneak
draft. At least
draft.
coming fourth.
Yeah, at least you're not in last, my man. And next week, you got it. You got it next week. The Denver Broncos versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one. Teddy Bridgewater back and Cortland Sutton with a hell of a game. Josh, is Cortland Sutton the only receiver you're starting on this team right now, or are you okay with Tim Patrick as well while Jerry Jeudy's out?
I'm okay with Tim Patrick in a deeper league, and he's an upside play in a FanDuel lineup for sure. He's not going to be very expensive. He's not a big name. I love what I saw of Cortland Sutton. He's an every week start for me in normal fantasy leagues.
Completely agree with you guys on that one. The running backs in this game. Williams with 8 carries, 61 yards. Melvin Gordon, 9 carries, 34 yards. More of the same. They just keep on pretty much evenly splitting that backfield. JL, is there one of these backs that you prefer on this team between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, or is it a 50-50 crapshoot for you?
It's Javonte Williams. He's looked fantastic. He's had breakaway runs in both of the last 2 games. He outperformed or efficiency. How do you say that?
More efficient.
There you go. More efficient than Melvin Gordon this week. The 8 carries for 61 yards compared to Gordon's 9 carries for 34 yards.
Better in the receiving game, too.
Javonte Williams had 3 receptions for 25 yards on 3 targets. Melvin Gordon had 2 for 9 on 2 targets. So it's Javonte Williams going forward.
Anybody disagree? Anybody prefer Melvin Gordon?
Hell no.
I wouldn't say I prefer Melvin Gordon.
I was going to say, Jay's the only one who's going to push
it's
back.
Not that I definitely think it's not saying anything about Williams. I just still think that Gordon's going to be plenty involved to cap that upside for Williams.
He will.
Definitely, if you're looking for the home run play, it's Williams, no question whatsoever. But I just think that Gordon's going to be involved for the majority of the season, which is going to hurt Williams's value.
Yep. On the Denver side of this ball, guys, anything else that you think is important from this game that we need to discuss? Noah Fant, not very involved, 3 receptions, 20 receiving yards. Any worry about him, or just a bad tight end game? Because tight end games can be bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
You keep starting Noah Fant. You keep plugging him in your lineup. He's one of the better tight ends to start. You're going to get games like this, but
it's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Not much else you can do there.
One thing I did want to say about Denver, Jerry Jeudy could be coming back soon, so check your waiver wire, see if he's available. You can stash him on your IR spot if your league has that, or even throw him at the end of your bench, because Teddy Bridgewater's looked pretty decent, and Jeudy, I think, is going to have some late season value.
Yep, completely agree on that one. We're going to move on to the Pittsburgh side of this ball. Chase Claypool coming down with the big touchdown, 5 receptions, 130 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. And then Deontay Johnson saved his day with a touchdown, 2 receptions, 72 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Josh, is Deontay Johnson still the wide receiver 1 in this offense? This was just a Claypool game.
Deontay Johnson's going to get the most targets going forward, in my opinion. He's going to continue. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger still is having some issues, to be completely honest with you guys. He just doesn't look right. There's going to be a lot of passes. Juju Smith-Schuster got hurt this game. I don't know the extent of the injury. Deontay Johnson is definitely the fantasy wide receiver 1, in my opinion.
The fantasy wide receiver 1.
Not the Steelers, but he's a great option week in and week out. He's going to get so many targets and receptions.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. Deontay Johnson's the one. And then with Juju out, how does that affect this wide receiver landscape? Have we gotten news if Juju is out longer than just the second half of this game?
Not that I
have not seen anything. I'll do a little looking, but I think it makes you a little more comfortable throwing Chase Claypool in. Claypool's been more of a boom bust guy, but if the targets are going to go to Johnson, Claypool, and Harris, then just having that one less player in in there to take targets away, I think is a safer floor for Claypool.
Yeah, Smith-Schuster, he got his shoulder injured, and it says right now just consider it day-to-day until we know more, until we get more information.
Yep, completely agree with you guys there on that one. Anything else on this Pittsburgh side of the ball? The wide receivers were the big thing that I think we needed to talk about here.
Just to sum that up, like if one of these wide receivers is out, the other two guys are great options. Just because Ben Roethlisberger loves just chucking it down to them in PPR leagues, they're going to be great.
Yeah. I just want to say Najee Harris is a every week start, period.
Yes.
End of story. Everybody was concerned that this offensive line is going to be terrible. Yes, it's terrible, but fantasy football volume is king. He's only had one game under double-digit points. This was a very tough matchup, and he was still able to get over 100 yards, a touchdown. The Broncos have given up the fewest fantasy points to running backs this season so far. Before this game, you're starting Harris every single week, no questions asked. He's either going to get it done, with a touchdown, the rushing production, or he's going to get it done with catches.
He has the highest % target share on the season on this team. Now, I think that is a little bit inflated from that 19 target week. Was it week 3?
I think so.
But he's still involved, right? He's still involved in the passing game. So I completely agree with you, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Okay, guys, we are going to move on to our next game, the Tennessee Titans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. It looked like for a minute there that we might get 2 bad losses for the Titans in a row, but they ended up putting it together a little bit. And the Jaguars were back a little. Trevor Lawrence took a step back again this week compared to what we saw last week. So on the sorry, did that load over there? Yeah, we got it. On the Jacksonville side of this ball is where we're going to start. Trevor Lawrence with 22.72, or let's move over to FanDuel scoring. 22.72 fantasy points from Trevor Lawrence. So a decent week. Last week, from a football perspective, I know he looked much better. Josh, do you have any comfort in a season-long format starting Trevor Lawrence? Or do you think we're going to get some of this up and down from him in this Jacksonville team?
In a season-long format, I still don't really have a lot of interest in starting Trevor Lawrence. We talked about it earlier. This team is poorly coached, in my opinion, and Trevor Lawrence kind of, I'm not going to say saved his day, but I'm going to say he saved his day with that rushing touchdown. He actually almost had 2. I do think that's possible going forward. I do think he can score those close rushing touchdowns. He's fast enough, and he's got a big body that he can throw around, but I would rather avoid Trevor Lawrence if I can.
I completely agree. And then JL, James Robinson with 18 carries, 149 and a rushing touchdown. I know people were worried about Carlos Hyde at the beginning. You had some concerns because of his connection with Urban Meyer. Are those concerns dead for you? Is this James Robinson's backfield?
Yeah, no, we adapt based off new information here, and James Robinson is the guy here. Seems like Urban Meyer has found his sense, at least in some ways.
Has he though?
He found sense in one thing, giving James Robinson the ball over there. And then we talked a bit about these receivers earlier, guys. Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones need to be more involved in this offense for Jacksonville to find success offensively, and they're not. So hopefully Urban Meyer pulls his head out of wherever it is and starts targeting these guys a little bit more. Jay, as the resident biggest Viska fan, better weeks ahead for Viska, or is this a hands-off situation while Urban Meyer is still the coach there?
I wouldn't say hands off. I definitely think better weeks are ahead, but you can't be comfortable because this, everybody was thinking with Chark out that Viska was going to get a much higher target share, and it just didn't happen. I don't understand why. You saw he was, he broke a couple tackles. He made a big play with the one catch that he was able to make. I do like both Marvin Jones and Laviska going forward, but you run the risk of Urban Meyer being Urban Meyer and Tavon Austin getting 5 catches for 54 yards. So you just don't know what's going to happen with this team. I thought the Trevor Lawrence looked the best he did last week when he was, targeting Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. I thought he looked fantastic, and he looked solid today, but didn't look good by any means.
No, absolutely not. And Michael saying, I feel like Trevor Lawrence will be inconsistent. Yeah, we agree with you there. There's going to be more rookie quarterback troubles, and his team doesn't help. D Soldier has a question for us before we move on to the Tennessee Titans side of this game. He wants to know, should he trade Keenan Allen for Cordarrelle Patterson? Jay, you're shaking your head. You hit this one for us.
No, absolutely not. No question. Keenan Allen's the wide receiver one on one of the best offenses. I love Mike Williams, but Cordarrelle Patterson, the bottom could fall out at any time. there's no chance I would ever make this move.
Josh, are you agreeing with Jay there?
Yeah, I agree. There's some part of me that wants to say, oh man, if your running back situation's horrible, you can put Cordell Patterson as your running back. But yeah, Keenan Allen's too much.
If that was the case, you could get a better running back for Keenan Allen than Cordell Patterson.
Yeah.
A general tip: when a guy's been blowing up like Cordell Patterson, that's probably the worst time to try to trade for him. His value is the absolute highest it could ever be. You are going to overpay to try to get him on your team. Okay, guys, we are going to move on to the Tennessee side of this ball. Derrick Henry, 29 carries, 130 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Just doing what Derrick Henry does. This is a guy that could be worth paying up for in your FanDuel lineups every single week. He's a stud. Anything else to add on Derrick Henry?
No.
He's good.
And then outside of Derrick Henry, there really wasn't much else going on for this Tennessee Titans offense. That was pretty much it. And you know what? I think you're going to see weeks like that. Derrick Henry can be the Tennessee Titans offense almost to a whole. Are you guys concerned about Ryan Tannehill rest of the season? This is a couple weeks in a row. He hasn't looked great. John Luke, we'll come to you on that one. How do you feel about Ryan Tannehill going forward? He was a pretty much consensus QB1 preseason whenever people were drafting. And we haven't really been getting that from him recently.
Yeah. I think we have to, let's see, in PPR, it looks like he's QB 20.
I'm glad he's catching a lot of passes.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
I'm messing up. I'm sorry. I had to do it to you.
The thing I was looking at didn't specify, and I was like, why isn't the PPR thing there? I didn't even think about it. He's QB 20, so I think at this point, that's right where we need to expect, right? He's not going to be, he might give you QB1 weeks. I don't think it's going to be, you can expect QB1 every week. Next week he plays Buffalo. I'm not going to be super excited for that. But then Kansas City, Colts, Rams. So it's kind of a mixed schedule, but I think QB2 is right where he belongs.
QB2 right where he belongs in JL's eyes. That is disappointing though for people that drafted him. They were expecting a QB1 as far as I know. I think most people expected QB1 performances out of Ryan Tannehill. Josh, you love AJ Brown. He is one of your favorite players in the NFL. I know at least before the season, he was your dynasty wide receiver 1. Are you concerned with the way this offense is running right now with Derrick Henry getting all of these carries that AJ Brown's going to continue having these disappearing act type weeks? Or is this more him coming off an injury and needing to be eased back into the offense?
I'm going to be honest, I'm glad you came to me because I wanted to talk about AJ Brown. He was coming off this injury. Listen, he was coming off this injury. A lot of people didn't even expect him to play this week. And he got, 6 targets for 3 receptions. I saw some reports that were saying he really was only going to be active to act as a distraction somewhat. And he was on the field actually more than I even expected. AJ Brown, I really do think will be fine. And I think Tannehill could be fine once he gets all his weapons back. Does that mean he's going to be a quarterback 1 every week? No. He doesn't have a lot of upside, not with Derrick Henry. But I think there are going to be more consistent weeks ahead.
Do you think when Julio comes back, you think he's going to have that low-end QB1, high-end QB2 potential? Or you think he's going to be more where JL was talking about?
Yes, and I know week 1 and week 2, he had Julio and AJ Brown. But, he was throwing a lot more. Derrick Henry's got a lot more involved, and I think that's they're winning. They lost against the Jets last week. They won this week, but I don't know. I think we're going to see more targets for these receivers.
Absolutely, and it's going to be hard for them to continue, especially like I keep saying it, that extra game. But that's extra hits on these guys' bodies. I don't think that Derrick Henry is going to get 29 carries every single game through this year. I think they're going to have to air the ball out a little more. So I'm with you on that. I think AJ Brown's going to be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Jay, I should agree with you. Everything says to agree with you about the Derrick Henry workload.
Then agree with me.
Except what I've seen from Derrick Henry, he's a monster. While everything you said makes sense, is accurate.
Greek god, basically.
Should apply. Derrick Henry's the exception, and I've been done trying to apply the standard rules of fantasy football to Derrick Henry. He's a guy who can handle 400 touches 2 years in a row. He can do it. Not many running backs ever have been able to do that. Derrick Henry breaks rules. I agree with you. Maybe harbor some caution, but if there's one player that can maintain a workload like this, it is Derrick Henry. And if it's working, they might just keep on going back to it for the rest of the season.
So redraft, is he running back 1 overall for you guys the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Even if McCaffrey comes back.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He's
the
in my opinion.
The only thing that worries me is his lack of involvement in the receiving game, but we have seen a little bit more from him this year. Yeah, it's been a little more this year, but man, I think he has to be your RB1 rest of season and redraft. I don't see how you don't put him there.
So I got a piece of trivia for you all. Another piece here.
I had a feeling
I love trivia.
So the player with up until now, so including all the week 5 games up until this point, the running back with the second most rushing attempts is Alvin Kamara with 94. Mm-hmm. How many does Derrick Henry have?
Oh God.
150. I'm guessing.
I'll say 142.
And Jay?
143.
You Price is Right, cheaters. Son of a gun.
What?
Simon got it 142.
Whoa!
Oh, hey, let's go.
I am 100% convinced he looked.
I'm staring right at the same screen you are.
What? You're in my house right now?
Don't turn around. Or do. I'm
142. That's insane. That's almost 50 more attempts.
I was only one off.
You were, but you also cheated because you were right above it.
I'm out your window.
Josh wins.
Yeah, I was furthest away, but I win somehow. Let's go. We're all close. I'll give it.
Okay, guys. Anything else on the Tennessee Titans side of this ball before we move on to our next game?
Yeah, there was some talk in the offseason that Ferkser, with myself included, might be a decent tight end play. You don't want him. He's not worth it.
Yep, I was right there with you.
If he was going to perform, it was going to be without these guys playing, and he just
right. The reason I liked him was before, Corey Davis was gone. That was before they got Julio, and even without Julio, he's just not involved.
We forgot to consider that the Titans literally don't need to pass the ball to have an effective offense. So if their 2 main receivers go down, it can just go all through Derrick Henry. Guys, this next game we are going to talk about is the Philadelphia-Carolina game. Philadelphia coming on top, 28-18. So we can talk about them first. Jalen Hurts, 22 for 37, 198 yards, no passing touchdowns, but then he had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. Josh, Jalen Hurts, rest of season. How do you feel about this guy? From a real NFL perspective, you look at that stat line, it's not super impressive, but for fantasy, he's getting it done.
That's pretty much sums up what I want to say. He did not look good in this game. These rushing touchdowns both came late in the game, and I don't know. I mean, it's good that he's involved, and he is running the ball. 9 attempts for 30 yards. Not great, but 2 touchdowns. He's still a fantasy play week in and week out. Top 12 quarterback the rest of the season. From a fantasy perspective, he's got a lot of upside every week. But from a real life NFL perspective, I was disappointed with this game, and I've been disappointed with a few games now from him.
Yep. Now, Jay, I'm going to ask you a question and then proceed to answer it for you, like I did to Josh right there. I'm just kidding. Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell, we mentioned a couple weeks ago. We mentioned last week. We talk about it every single week. These running backs just aren't as involved as we thought they would be. But Miles Sanders with 11 carries this week. What do we do with these Philadelphia running backs? That's the only question I can even ask. There was some excitement about Miles Sanders in the preseason. People were drafting him as a high upside kind of guy. Gainwell, there was excitement as a talented rookie coming in, but it's just been a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I was one of those guys who was really high. Miles Sanders, I believe in the talent. He's had this year and last year. He's had a great yards per carry. It's a little lower now over these past 2 weeks, but he's been consistently in the top 5, top 10 in yards per carry. He's been extremely efficient. He's had some breakaway runs, but just similar to Laviska Shenault with Jacksonville, they just don't get him involved. I don't understand why. He's shown when he gets the ball in his hands, he's electric. He can make things happen. Right now, honestly, you've got to bench Miles Sanders until you see some consistent usage. If you've got, I started Damien Williams over him this week, and I was the right decision. He got 11 carries, which is a little more, it's better than 2. It's better than 7 last week. But right now, you can't trust it. He's not involved in the passing game enough. They were using Kenneth Gainwell on in the red zone, and he's only getting 11 carries. If he doesn't break away a long touchdown, you're not going to get what you expected out of Miles Sanders. So for right now, you can't start him.
It hurts, but I think you're right. You got to bench him. JL, you disagreed on there or just have something to add?
I mean, I think last week the whole conversation was okay. Kenneth Gainwell is getting like basically half of the opportunities in this offense, and Miles Sanders, they're moving away from Miles Sanders. We saw that switch this week, right? Miles Sanders got more work, both in the rushing and the receiving game. What I think really happened is the matchup, right? They went against Carolina, who's very good, or at least has been very good against the run, and I think that they just didn't run as much as they normally
Third fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs, so it's definitely a tough matchup.
Yeah, so I think you can hopefully start Miles Sanders going forward. Where you drafted him, I would want to start him, but you might need to adjust and move him down to like RB2 flex value.
Right? Yeah, he's not a must bench, but if if you have a Damien Williams, Josh Jacobs, somebody
Jay,
that
would you have started Chuba Hubbard over Miles Sanders this week?
I don't think I could have done that.
Okay. So that's about where the line is.
Yeah. It's somebody who is pretty much guaranteed a pretty solid workload is going to be the line for me. And I do think Sanders, I think what JL said, the usage today was encouraging. I believe in the talent. I think he's a good buy low, especially for redraft. I think he's somebody you can probably get pretty cheap from a frustrated manager who could really pay some dividends by the end of the season.
Yep, completely agree. Then Devonza Smith is a baller. 7 receptions, 77 yards. He didn't get a touchdown, but with the way Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball, that's about as good of a game from a wide receiver on that team as you can expect. You keep starting Devonta Smith. You keep plugging him into your lineups. He's so much fun. He's a fun player to watch out there. I love watching Devonta Smith. Anything else you guys want to say about this Philly team before we move on? Let's do it. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, and the name I just mentioned, Chuba Hubbard with 15.9 fantasy points. And Jay, I am very proud of you for not just saying you would have started Chuba Hubbard because he did better. You took that retrospective take out of it and said, no, you wouldn't have. But he had himself a decent game. 24 carries, 101 yards, 5 receptions for 33 yards, 15.9 points without a touchdown. While Christian McCaffrey is out, is Chuba Hubbard someone that you're starting every week? Or is it matchup dependent? Josh?
Oh, yeah, I'm willing to start him if Christian McCaffrey's out. But I do expect Christian McCaffrey to be back next week. There were reports that he could play this week. He did end up being out, which I expected. I think he's going to play next week, though.
Are you starting no more Chuba Hubbard week if he's back?
Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to make sure. Sometimes coming off an injury, but Christian McCaffrey's the kind of player you're starting if he's playing.
Absolutely.
Josh or JL and Jay?
Christian McCaffrey could go out there on crutches, and I would still start.
We were asked this question a little bit earlier in the week on one of our shows. If Christian McCaffrey does play this weekend, are you playing him? And I said no. I would want to see it. Now that was when we got that report on like a Wednesday or Thursday, a little bit later in the week. If he gets a full week of practice, I'm confident. But if he doesn't practice, first part of the week, and we go into the weekend with him being a game time decision, I'm fine sitting Christian McCaffrey.
I couldn't do it. He's the player for me it's definitely been the wrong call plenty, but he's just the type of player that if he's playing, I can't risk having him and blow up on my bench. Unless they come out and say he's only going to play 30% of snaps, that's a different story. But if he's active and outside of, planned reduced snaps, I'm rolling with him.
Jill, I like what you said, though. And something that gives me confidence to start him next week if he does end up playing is the fact that he was probable or possible to start this week and they decided to sit him. I think they're doing this right. They're giving him the time to heal. That extra week means a lot to me, and it gives me a lot more confidence to plug him in my lineup next week than if they would have rushed him out onto the field this week.
Yep.
Guys, the receivers here, the top scoring receiver was a tight end, Tommy, or what's his first name? Tremble.
Tommy.
Is it Tommy? I said that and it sounded too much like a cartoon character. And I was like, there's no way that's his real name, right?
Tommy Tremble.
Tommy Tremble with his first touchdown of his NFL career. Is this the beginning of the next tight end sensation or just a good game for this guy, Jay? Josh, what'd you say?
I said lol.
Lol. Yeah. I just saw people freaking out on Twitter saying lots more where that came from.
Not even a good game. He caught a touchdown. Like, he gets this from
Tommy Trouble.
It's 12 yards.
Yeah, I'm not starting Tommy Trouble in any of my lineups.
2 receptions for 12 yards and 1 touchdown.
you could throw him into a FanDuel lineup hoping for a touchdown, but what you're hoping for is 9 points like you got today, or 8 points.
I feel like
you're hoping
that would be your professional wrestling name, Tummy Trouble. I think
Tummy Trouble. Entering the ring, Tummy Trouble. I'm sorry. Outside of Trumbull, your other receivers, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, all with pretty disappointing games. And that came off the back of a fairly disappointing game from Sam Darnold. Josh, of these three receivers, I'm assuming DJ Moore is first. Correct me if I'm wrong right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the other receivers on this team, who are you most interested in maybe throwing into a FanDuel lineup, trying to catch some of that upside at a lower value?
I mean, it's Robbie Anderson. He keeps getting a lot of targets. They're just not connecting. If the targets are still there, one of these weeks he's going to have a big blow up game. That's from a FanDuel perspective when I'm just going for upside, trying to win a big lineup kind of deal. But I'm not starting Robbie Anderson otherwise in a normal fantasy league.
In a redraft league, are you still starting Robbie Anderson over Terrace Marshall weekly?
Yes,
week to week?
I am.
Josh and JL. Or J and JL. Too many damn J names, guys. You guys got to stop. Somebody needs to change their name. J and JL. Are you starting Marshall or Anderson?
No.
That's a good answer. You can leave it at that, honestly, if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Not how I meant it, but I guess you're 100% able to answer the question like that. Okay, guys. It is time to move on to our next game. It is the second to last 1 p.m. game, New England versus Houston. Battle of the rookie quarterbacks, and man, did Davis Mills have himself a day. Jay, can we expect more of this from Davis Mills going forward? Or, I mean, he did it against Bill Belichick, who's known for stopping rookie quarterbacks. Or was this a fluky game? Or do you have interest in Davis Mills?
No, I have no interest in Davis Mills. Yeah, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's nice, but I want to see it more than once, more than twice. 3 games of this, then maybe I'll consider trusting him. But I just think it was just a fluky thing, to be honest with you.
And then the receivers, Moore and Conley, put up pretty good fantasy games. But JL, is there anybody else on this Houston team that you're starting or plugging into a FanDuel lineup on a weekly basis?
I mean, Brandon Cooks was for a little while. I don't know what is going on now. His target share has definitely gone down after this week. He's still the target leader there, so I would probably still start Brandon Cooks going forward, depending on the matchup, and that you don't have someone better to throw in there. But apart from that, probably not.
Yeah, it's Brandon Cooks and Brandon Cooks only for me. Anybody else have interest in starting anybody else?
Nope.
Then you know what? Let's move on to the New England side of this ball. Hunter Henry with 6 receptions, 75 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown, I think is the most important thing for us to talk about here. Jay, is he a tight end you can confidently start going forward?
You really can't confidently start either one of these guys. It's basically you're hoping you get the guy who has a touchdown. I think, as a low-end tight end, you're throwing in there Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry are fine, but it's basically the one that catches the touchdown this week.
Yep. There's not many players I want to start at all in any format, whether it's daily fantasy, GPP, head-to-heads, or redraft. I don't want to start really anybody on this team if I can avoid it. Maybe Jacoby Myers is the only player, and that's just due to target volume. Maybe one day he'll fall into the end zone. Guys, I don't know what else to even say about this New England team from a fantasy perspective. Anything else to add for them?
Is Brandon Bolden worth rostering going forward?
Damian Harris did, I think, have an injury in this game. He almost had 2 touchdowns. It got knocked out right at the goal line. They had to review it. They called it a touchdown at first, and that really affected his fantasy game. Brandon Bolden's worth an ad for sure, especially if Damian Harris's injury is long term.
Yeah.
Michael coming in here saying Texas Davis Mills is a flash in the pan at QB. I tend to agree with you. I think this was just a great game for an average quarterback. He had a great game. Don't take that away from him, but don't project this kind of volume going forward. Guys, we are going to move on to our next game, the Miami-Tampa Bay game. 1 second. We're going to have to switch sites to pull up the stats for that one, so give me 1 moment.
I was going to say, calling Davis Mills an average quarterback, that was actually a compliment. That was pretty nice of you to say that. So kudos to you, Simon.
I do want to mention that Tyrod Taylor will be back eventually. They still might roll with Davis Mills. Tyrod Taylor. Sure.
I'm bad about
we'll see.
that too.
We'll see.
Also, Tim Wright, if you're still watching, avert your eyes. I know you did not want to talk about this game, but we have to talk about it a little bit. Tom,
said, no, you promised.
45-17, the Buccaneers beat the Dolphins, and Tom Brady, goodness gracious, 411 yards, 5 touchdowns. This man is a monster. What are you doing with Tom Brady going forward? Is he a top 5 quarterback rest of season, even without that rushing upside, with the receiving options that he has here in Tampa Bay?
You can't start Tom Brady. No, I'm just playing. He's in there every single week, no matter the format. He's like, that's the one thing JL and I did a video before the season started about Tom Brady, where he said Tom Brady was top 5. And for me, I didn't agree because of that, the lack of the rushing upside. But if he continues to, click with all 3 of the wide receivers, Antonio Brown and Mike Evans both had big games. He's very easily could finish his top 5. And if they can, he did all this where they were up big almost the entire game. This was a Tom Brady old division rival spite game where, they were up 21 points and he's still throwing touchdowns. So if he's on, the Tom Brady with a chip on his shoulder and he wants to go out and break records, you can't put it past them to finishing as a QB1 if they continue to throw the ball like this.
I completely agree with you there. And then JL, you're smirking down there. So you volunteered yourself for this next one. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. It's starting to look like Leonard Fournette might have taken over in this backfield as the lead running back. Do you think Ronald Jones is just dead in fantasy? Is this Leonard Fournette's field? Is he the back you want to start?
Yes. Yeah. Out of the 2 of these guys, yes, it's Leonard Fournette. He has a far greater target share in this offense. He's getting more opportunities. I would rather have him. Ronald Jones I was just doing an ADP analysis, just looking at where players are drafted versus where they're currently at in the season positionally. Ronald Jones is one of the worst busts so far on the season based off where he was drafted.
Drop him.
0 RBs.
Yeah, I'm dropping. I think I said that a week or 2 ago that I think at this point he's droppable.
Yep. Guys, I really don't think we need to say too much about these receivers. Antonio Brown and Mike Evans each with 2 touchdowns, but with Tom Brady throwing on the ball, the talent that these receivers have, you're going to get huge games like this from all 3 of the big receivers here. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Start them, all of them, every week, and pick your favorite one for what's that face about, Josh?
It was the mic.
Your mic got loud.
Oh,
JL. I always look at JL's face when it happens. I wanted him to do it too, so we always do the same thing. It's fun. It's a fun
guys.
It's a fun little game.
Yeah.
On the Miami side of this ball, there's really only one player that we need to talk about, and that's Myles Gaskin. I believe. Josh, how do you feel about Myles Gaskin going forward rest of season as a running back?
I like Myles Gaskin. I know everyone was disappointed with what happened last week. He's not getting the carries, which sucks. As long as he's getting these targets, he's going to be fine. I like him. I don't love him. He's not necessarily a top. He's like a borderline top 24 running back in the landscape currently. So he's not a must start by any means, but he's got the upside every week.
I mean, 10 targets, 10 receptions. Do you think that kind of volume is going to continue, JL? You've been hitting us with some volume numbers. Do you like the target share that Myles Gaskin got this week, or is this just a fluky game?
Let me quickly pull up. Oh, here it is. I think it's somewhat of a fluky game. I mean, I'll just quickly go through the weeks here. Week 1, 5, 2, 5. Week 3, 6. Week 4, 0, and week 5, 10.
Is that targets?
That's targets. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
He has. I think he's leading the running backs here in Miami. Not that that's saying much. I mean, who's next? Salvin Ahmad. But yeah, I don't think he's going to get 10 targets a game, and he's certainly not going to get 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah, that would be preposterous to project. Then we'd be talking about him as the running back 1 instead of Derrick Henry over there if we could project that. Not much else on this Dolphins side of the ball that we need to talk about. So I think we can go ahead and move on to our first 4 p.m. game. We've got the Cleveland Browns versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And this was very high scoring. The Chargers hit the over-under on their own, right, Josh? So the winner of this game hit the over-under all by themselves. Lots of points scored. We'll start with the Cleveland side of this ball. People were celebrating the death of Baker Mayfield after that Vikings game, but the rumors of his death were greatly exaggerated. He was back, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Still not a guy I want to start week to week in redraft, Baker, but you can if you need to. And in super flex leagues, he's a fine quarterback too, in my eyes. Josh, these running backs, I asked you during the game, is Kareem Hunt the goal line back? Because he's been getting quite a few goal line carries. Both of these running backs, I assume you still want Nick Chubb over Kareem Hunt rest of the season, but how close is that in your eyes?
They're super close at this point. I do not think that Kareem Hunt is the goal line back, but I don't necessarily think that Nick Chubb is either. They're going to rotate these guys pretty evenly. Rotate. Nick Chubb is going to get more carries on a week in, week out basis, and Kareem Hunt's going to get more catches. And catches typically have a little bit more upside and value to them. They're super close. Nick Chubb's a better runner, though, all in all.
I want to talk about the receiving options for a little bit here. Jay, David Njoku, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 149 yards. This is what I was hoping for from him 2 years ago, and then for it to continue, but we finally got a big game like this. Do you have any reason to believe that we're going to see more of this going forward, or is it going to be more of the tight end roulette that we've seen with Njoku, Bryant, and Hooper?
I think it's going to be the tight end roulette. I like Njoku. When the Giants drafted Evan Ingram, I've said this a few times, I wanted Njoku. I think he's got the talent. If they were ever, similar to the Laviska situation, if they were ever to focus on him and give him the opportunity, I think he could do this on a week in and week out basis. But, almost half of his yards came on one play where he broke a few tackles. He looked good, but it's, Jarvis Landry still isn't back yet. You got the other tight ends that are going to be involved. It was just one of those games where if I saw our buddy Dan Turner talk about it earlier, congratulations if you were one of 3 people in all of fantasy football that started David Njoku this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't know that you can read too much into this, but congratulations if you did start him. JL, I want to ask you, Odell Beckham Jr., with Jarvis Landry out, the passing volume in this game, you would have expected a decent game from him. Does this worry you going forward, this trend of underperforming by Odell Beckham Jr.?
No, we were talking a little bit about it earlier in the week. The Chargers are one of the best defenses against the pass. And so we sort of expected the receiving options in this game to struggle. We expected Baker Mayfield to struggle a little bit. He definitely performed better than I would have expected. But OBJ was certainly, I think, a casualty of this really good Chargers secondary.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. 2 weeks in a row now. OBJ last week was the casualty of a really poor Baker game. This week, it seems like a really tough matchup for receivers, but I'm with you. I expect better things ahead for OBJ. Josh, I see you nodding your head down there a little bit. Do you agree with us, or do you have concerns about Odell Beckham Jr.'s involvement in this offense going forward?
I would have liked to see more still from him. I completely agree, JL. I didn't expect the world from Odell Beckham, but more than 3 targets for 2 catches and 20 receiving yards. I feel like they could get him more involved in different ways, but they were scoring. And maybe it's the fact that the Chargers defense was so uber focused on stopping him. There was just other people open. So.
They should have done the New York move, the Giants move, and just hit him on a bunch of slants.
It worked. Noodle Arm Eli Manning had some pretty good seasons with Odell Beckham that way. So
I think this could also just be an issue of trust, right? Like Baker and him don't exactly have the best or like the most experience playing together. And so there's a level of trust there. When you're going against a really good defense, it's probably harder to trust your receiver throwing into coverage. It's one of the best in the league.
Well, Baker started playing better when Odell went down last year, and what it looked like, and Simon, you can probably talk on this better than I can, but he didn't feel like he had to force the ball to him, so he could play the field versus feeling like he has to force the ball to OBJ to keep him happy.
Yeah, it wasn't that Odell made the Browns offense worse. It was that they were trying to force feed Odell, and the chemistry wasn't there. Now, I was expecting a slightly better chemistry between the 2 players this year and for some of those problems to be ailed, but they
need to eat some fettuccine together. That's what they got to do.
They got to go on a fettuccine Alfredo date. Guys, we're going to move over. We got to run through some of these last teams. We're going to go over to the Chargers now. The main thing I want to ask you, Josh, Mike Williams, 8 receptions, 165 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Is Keenan Allen still the wide receiver you want to start on this team over Mike Williams, or is Mike Williams sneaking into that territory?
And Mike Williams also had 16 targets. They were hyper-targeting in this game after last week. He kind of disappeared. Keenan Allen, in my mind, is going to be the more consistent option every week, while Mike Williams has more upside. So it's like pick your poison. I think it's we say this a lot, 1A, 1B situation, right? I think it's kind of turning into that. I'd rather start Keenan Allen over Mike Williams, but they're pretty close now.
JL, with the little head bob down there, are you starting Keenan Allen or Mike Williams? Which one do you prefer?
I'm starting both. If I have both of these guys, I'm starting.
That wasn't
both
the
guys.
question, JL.
You cheat every time. You said no last time. You said both this time. But you know what? You're right. It's a good answer.
If I'm facing a decision where I have to start one of these guys and not the other, then my team is amazing already, and I probably don't even need to be seeking fantasy advice. But both of these guys, let's see, 26.9% target share in this offense on the season for Keenan Allen, 24% for Mike Williams. They're the two guys in this offense.
Yeah, those are the guys. And then the running game, Austin Eckler, 17 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then he was involved in the passing game as well. 5 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. He's a monster. He's involved in the receiving game. He's a great back. Keep starting him. Anything else from this Los Angeles game?
Yeah.
Then let's move on. We've got Chicago, Las Vegas up next. The Bears versus the Raiders. Justin Fields with the start, going 12 for 20 for 111 yards and a touchdown. And all of the receiving options disappointed.
Again.
It's not going good. But you know what? We did get a touchdown for the receiver. Everybody started. Jesper Horsted. So congratulations to everyone who started Jesper Horsted for the 1 reception, 2 yards, 1 touchdown game that he got over there.
And he bailed Justin Fields out on that pass.
He did.
It was not a smart throw by Justin Fields. It was a great catch. Justin Fields has been very disappointing this entire season. I can't start him in fantasy.
I was going to say, on that note, Josh, you're not starting Justin Fields at all going forward until you see something different?
Yes. The rushing floor isn't even there. 3 attempts for 4. What's going on?
Let's say you have him in redraft, Josh. What are you doing?
Dropping him, probably.
You're dropping him?
Well, it depends on my options. Yeah, most likely, though. Yeah.
And then, Jay, I know you've been you started Damien Williams in a lot of leagues. You've been hyping him up going into this week with David Montgomery out. FanDuel said, We said Jesper Horsted. That sounds like a fancy horse name, doesn't it?
It does. It's 100% a fancy horse.
Come along, Jesper.
Jesper, come. Would you like it? Would you like an apple?
Who still wants an apple, Jesper?
I'm glad we've got like 3 minutes left and we're using it to talk about a hypothetical horse named Jesper Horsted when we've got 2 more games. That's what you come for whenever you come for the Sunday night recap. And Michael saying, I feel like Beckham will improve over the season. I'm in agreement with you there. I sure hope so. If he gets worse, then oh my gosh, we've run into some real trouble. But Jay, you've been excited about Damian Williams. Damian Williams was not the running back with the most carries this week. Khalil Herbert, the rookie, came in 18 carries, 75 yards, slightly more efficient, 4.2 a carry, but did not get the touchdown that Damian Williams got. Are you starting Damian Williams with the same confidence next week that you did this week after seeing Khalil Herbert's usage?
I am. I didn't have Williams was more of a floor play than a ceiling play. I think he's a rock solid running back too. He did still get 16 carries. He got 3 targets, so they want him to be involved. They had him. He didn't come out when he came in. I didn't watch the entire game, but every time I saw them in the red zone, Damian Williams was the guy that was in there. So for me, I think he's a much safer option. He got the touchdown. He got the passing work. So I think he's a rock solid RB2 or a flex play.
Yep, I'm agreeing with you there. And then, guys, anything else on the Bears side of this ball before we talk about the Raiders? Not much else to say about those receiving options over there. Sorry, excuse me. On the Raiders side of this ball, leading the team in receptions and tied for targets was none other than Hunter Renfrow himself.
Your boy.
8 targets, 6 receptions, 56 yards. And I don't know if this is my bias, JL, maybe you can back it up with some data. It has seemed like as the weeks progressed, he's gotten a little bit more involved in this offense, not just third down Hunter Renfrow, but he's a startable player in my mind every single week at this point. He's targeted heavily every single week. He's going to be a piece of this. Josh, do you think Hunter Renfrow is a startable wide receiver?
Yeah, startable is a perfect way to put it. I still prefer not to. Would you start,
on a weekly basis, Hunter Renfrow, Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards? Which one of these guys do you prefer to start?
I'm throwing Henry Ruggs in my FanDuel lineups over Hunter Renfrow, for instance. But in a normal league, PPR, sure, Hunter Renfrow's got that baseline that I feel comfortable with.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. That's what I was going to say. PPR, you're not shooting for upside. You just need a floor play. Hunter Renfrow's that floor play. If you need some ceiling, throw Ruggs or Edwards in your lineup for a little bit more ceiling. Jay, so Josh Jacobs came back, got 15 carries for 48 yards and a touchdown. not his most efficient game, but he got enough volume for us to be happy about it going forward. Is Josh Jacobs a running back you're just plugging in even after this injury coming back?
At this point, I think he's a rock solid running back too. The concern with Kenyon Drake was that he was going to come away with the passing work and take away that from Jacobs, and that didn't happen. He had 5 targets to Kenyon Drake's 1. Drake only had 2 carries. So yeah, I think Jacobs is still locked in with the volume. He had a decent day when this offense did not look good whatsoever. There's better days ahead for Josh Jacobs, and I think that if there's anybody, I actually just traded for him in one league. I think he's a really great option as a buy low. If there's a panicking roster manager or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So Jay, this week you said that you started Damien Williams over Josh Jacobs, and it was probably due to Jacobs coming back. Yep. Next week, are you making the same decision, or are you starting Josh Jacobs over Damien Williams?
From here on out, I would probably start Jacobs over Williams unless Williams had a much better matchup. But it's mainly based on matchup. If it's all things equal, Jacobs is the guy with a slight edge, but matchup is going to be the make or break.
Yep. And then I think we have to talk about it. My favorite player in the NFL started hot with 19 targets, but Darren Waller has been fairly disappointing since that week 1. Just not what we thought we were promised with that week 1 target share. JL, are you worried about Darren Waller? Is he still in that top tier with Travis Kelce, George Kittle in your mind, or is he knocked down a tier a little bit based on the past couple weeks?
I mean, I think you have to knock him down a little bit. I do expect them to target him a little bit more. I mean, he had the 19 target week in week 1, and then weeks 2 through 4, he had 7 targets across the board, and then 2 targets this week, which isn't super promising. I would much rather. I guess I would rather have those other 2 guys, but
Kittle's on the IR.
Sorry, not Kittle. Yeah.
Travis Kelce's in a tier of his own, in my opinion.
Kelsey's in a tier of his own, yeah. And then I think Waller is right there in tier 2 still.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
When the season started, I had them both tier 1 and a tier by themselves, no one else, and now Waller's downgraded.
All right, I got a question for you guys. After this week, Kyle Pitts or Darren Waller rest of the season? Redraft.
Waller.
I'll still take Darren Waller.
Yeah, I think I started to go Waller. But if you see another week of usage like this with Pitts, the thing I've liked with Pitts, the production hasn't been there, but his target share stayed basically the same. So
that's what I was going to say is the thing that almost like it's the positive for Pitts that his target share is staying the same, but also just because he's getting this target share doesn't mean we're going to continue seeing weeks like this.
Right.
I'll take Darren Waller, but yeah, the Raiders offenses look pretty bad, but so is the Falcons. Guys, before we jump, we are wrapping up here. I know Sunday Night Football is getting going. So everyone, you're going to be able to go watch that game in a minute. We're going to go watch that game. Enjoy the rest of our Sunday night. We've got a question from JWild28. He needs some advice. Should he trade Najee Harris and Marquise Brown for DeAndre Hopkins and Deandre Swift?
Stop what you're doing. Stop watching this. Go accept that trade right now.
I'm doing this trade as well.
It's a Najee and Swift are same tier for me at running back. And then Marquise Brown to DeAndre Hopkins is a jump of like 4 tiers.
I do have Najee a little higher than Swift, but I mean, it's neck and neck. Like it's like you said, they're the same tier.
Marquise Brown's played great. So he's jumped up, and DeAndre Hopkins is disappointed a little bit, but DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, and Bateman's coming back too. So you don't know what Marquise Brown is going to do. I still think he's going to perform, but that's something to take into consideration as well.
JL, are you taking this trade or are you going on the
I
Najee side?
I am taking this trade.
Okay, real quick before we jump off, Maria wanted us to give our Super Bowl picks. So let's go ahead and give our Super Bowl picks in week 5. John Luke, who is going to win the Super
your
Bowl?
Own first.
No, I'm the host. I get to pick who goes first. Fine, I will go first. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? I want to say the Browns, but I'm not going to. I will go with the Rams.
You got to do the matchup. Do the matchup. That's what she's saying.
Do the matchup?
Yeah. What's the Super Bowl matchup? Who versus
right.
who and who wins?
I can get it.
Okay. Well, then now I need another second.
I'll go Bucks Bills, and I'll say Bucks win.
It feels like you almost have to throw the Bucks in there in my mind right now. The Rams are playing really well. Maybe you could throw in the Rams, but it's Bucks and Baltimore.
Baltimore, I like it.
I'm going to say. I'm sorry. Go ahead, JL.
I was going to change mine to Bucks Chargers. Actually.
Okay.
Well, you stole one of mine. I was going to say Rams Chargers with Rams winning it all.
Steal it. Or you can do it. So.
I've got Rams Chargers with the Rams winning the Super Bowl.
LA matchup.
Yep, that would be so much fun, wouldn't it?
That would be
and the Super Bowl's in LA.
In LA.
The two LA teams playing in LA. Suck it, Tom Brady.
Is it actually in LA?
Yeah, it's in LA.
That's
Super Bowl
nuts. That's crazy.
Nuts.
That's why we said it's in LA.
So, Jail is not
okay. All right, Jay, I see how it is.
Jay, what teams are you picking?
Mix and match what you guys said. I'm going to go Ravens, Rams with Lamar Jackson hoisting the Lombardi.
Let's go.
The Lombardi is what we'll call
Lombardi.
it.
The Lombardi.
Okay, guys, that is it for us today. Write it down. Check the receipts at the end of the season. See who got it right. We can maybe update these as the season goes on every couple of weeks.
Say a different matchup every single week, and then clip the one once. Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll get it.
See,
guys, if you've not done
week 3.
If you've not done so already and you've enjoyed watching this show, hit the subscribe button on YouTube for FanDuel and head over to Twitch and follow them there as well. There are a bunch of awesome content creators pushing content out to help you win your leagues and win some money. So make sure you are tuned in over there. And we are live on the FanDuel YouTube and Twitch channels every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down these games for you. And then on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we are also live playing some games. So if you just like our faces, come on over and hang out with us Fridays at 6 p.m. on the FanDuel YouTube and Twitch channels as well. That is it for us today, guys, though. We got to go watch some Sunday Night Football, the Bills Chiefs. Anything else before we hop off?
Hey, Josh, do you have anything you need to say?
Trading makes fantasy fun. And Kansas City is winning 3-0. Let's go. Get some trades in. Let's make it happen.
We'll see you guys next week. Adios, everyone.